church. That's open. No secret societies. I mean, I'm not joking. There are, of course, there are some secret societies out there.
Yeah, there are.
And I think that there was when I was in law school, there was this fraternity called Skull and Bones that George W. Bush and John Kerry were involved in, and you realize that a lot of what's going on wrong with our country is that our leaders are drawn to the same very narrow class of people, right? And those people, I don't think, have the best interest in this country.
Demonic.
Now, here's what I think is basically going on with the World Economic Forum, right? You've got a lot of very powerful institutions that have gotten rich off of what I would call globalism, which is the destruction of American sovereignty and the destruction of American economic independence. Okay? Again, it was not an accident that we became reliant on the Chinese to make all of our stuff.
Right.
It was not an accident that we became a country that used to make things and had economic sovereignty, and now we rely on countries that don't like us very much to make all of our stuff. To me, it's fundamentally a question of sovereignty. Okay, who controls the government in this country? Okay, is it our elected officials, which is to say, the people through their elected officials? Is it the bureaucracy that can't be fired? Is it Anthony Fauci who's spent? People always ask me about term limits, and I'm pro-term limits. But guess who's been in office for 40 years, has a ton of power, frankly more power than most congressmen, makes more money than most congressmen, and hasn't had a different job in 40 years. Okay, the head of our public health bureaucracy, Anthony Fauci. Okay, we've got to root out the bureaucracy in this country and return sovereignty to the actual people. Again, that's not an easy thing to do, but it's not a hard thing to do. It's not complex. It's pretty simple. We just have to return more power to the people, more power to the legislature, and less power to the bureaucracy. The way I see the World Economic Forum stuff playing out in a way that really bothers me is, look, we've given up so much of our basic economic sovereignty, okay? Steel, computer chips, pharmaceuticals, now energy. We're becoming less energy independent at a moment when we need to become more energy independent. But there are a couple of industries that have completely been taken over by left-wing politics, okay?
Yep.
It used to be it seemed like it 10, 20 years ago, the business community was on the side of the right. Now it seems like the business community is increasingly on the side of the left. And you ask yourself, how is that happening? Well, why is it that Americans are letting Chinese investors using Wall Street buy up all of the single-family homes in this country? Okay, you talk to a young couple in Cincinnati or Columbus, anywhere, right? Anywhere, they're going up and buying a ton of single-family homes, right? That means that our young people can't have starter homes, can't create families. It's not just single-family homes; it's farmland. The Chinese are buying up a ton of American farmland right now. Bill Gates, okay, Microsoft guy, buying up a ton of American farmland. Our founding fathers believed that sovereignty and the constitutional republic could only work if we were a nation of owners, not a nation of renters. And so very simply, if you want to strike at the heart of the globalist economy and return some sovereignty to the American people, you could do what China does, which is ban foreign investment into this country. Okay, especially from China. The Chinese would not let American billionaires go in and buy up all of their farmland, right? Because it's crazy. Why do we let Chinese billionaires come in and buy up all of ours? Okay, very simple fix, very simple thing, would mean that our people own our country, which is the way that it should work, and it would also mean that a lot of our young people can afford the basic necessities in life. You don't have skyrocketing costs in food and housing. That's how we return economic sovereignty, in my view. You got to recognize what we're up against. Because these are some very powerful people with a lot of money, and they're not going to give up power that easily. And of course, when you think of the World Economic Forum, it's a gathering in Davos, Switzerland, every single year. It brings together the most powerful people in politics and business. And you know who they always hated? They hated Donald Trump, right? Very often they didn't invite this guy, of course, even though he was a very wealthy guy. This is, to me, the problem is it's about sovereignty. We need national sovereignty. We need our own economy controlled by our own people, not by foreign moneyed interests. That's how I think of it. Ma'am.
When I was in school, there was laws in effect. They actually taught it to us in geography and social studies that foreign countries could not own our radio, our anything that had to do with broadcasting. And now they own it all. How did that happen, and how do we get that back and get them out?
Well, you've got to, again, this goes back to what I said earlier, is you need to ban foreign investment into this country. Okay?
Right.
There are very few countries that let every country in the world come in and invest in their country and buy up all their stuff.
Right.
That's a very, very big problem. I mean, think about this, in 1942, would we have allowed Nazi Germany to come in and buy up General Electric and General Motors, right? The companies that were making our aircraft engines in World War II? No, of course we wouldn't have. And yet we allow today the communist Chinese to control our technology companies, to buy up American farmland, to buy up a lot of this stuff. This is the big problem. We cannot become a nation that doesn't own its own future. Our people should be owning the great bounty of this country. We should not let a bunch of foreigners come in and buy it all up.
Right.
Basic principle of sovereignty, and it's especially important now that we know that a lot of these global economic interests do not care about America in the same way. Okay? And think about this. In the 1950s, General Motors, one of our most important and powerful companies, said something to the effect of, what is good for General Motors is good for America. Okay? And maybe that was not totally right, but it was more or less right? They were invested in this country. Their workers were mostly in this country. They were selling products to this country. What General Motors had, it was fundamentally an American business with American workers and American customers. What could Google say, or Apple say in 2022, what's good for Apple is good for America? Or could Google say what's good for Google is good for America? I encourage all of you to go back after this little meeting and type into your phones, type into Google, can a man become pregnant? Okay? Maybe not a question that you would think need answer. But the very first answer that you will get is yes, men can become pregnant. In fact, it happens more often than you think. Now we all say, well, that's crazy. Who could possibly believe that? Well, a lot of our little kids who maybe are being confused about this stuff in their schools, they go to Google because that's the authoritative source, and that's what they get, okay? This is a non-stop effort to control our politics, our culture. Think about, I talk about election integrity, about the fact that we need to get back to having an election day, not an election season in this country, how we need universal voter ID, how we need to get the Zuckerbucks money out of our elections. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do to fix our elections. But I'll tell you right now, if 3 technology companies control the news sources that every single American sees, it doesn't matter how high integrity our elections are, right? I think the Hunter Biden laptop story, and the fact that they buried that story deep, has more to do with the 2020 election than anything else, because millions of people never saw a basic story that the President of the United States, or the guy who's running for President of the United States then, and his son were in corrupt business dealings with the Ukrainians and the Chinese. This is crazy, crazy stuff, but this is the power we've given these companies, which is why I say we got to focus on these technology companies if we want to have our country back. Will's telling me one more question, so I'm going to try to get through as many as I can very quickly. Sir, I'll start with you, and then ma'am, I saw you're in the jacket there. I saw your question.
So, given you get the job and the number of idiots that there are in Washington, D.C., how would you as a single senator make a difference?
Well, you got to be willing to make some enemies, right? That's the very fundamental truth. Is I always tell people, if you think that we're ever going to have 50 good Republican senators, I got news for you. We're not. Okay, but can you have 10 good Republican senators that are loyal to each other, loyal to the country that actually elected them, and can put pressure on their colleagues to get some stuff done? Yes. Okay. I'm proud to be endorsed by Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri. I think one of the most courageous senators that we've had in 50 years in this country. You don't need 50 Josh Hawleys, but if you get 5 or 10, you can make a huge, huge difference. And the other thing you got to do, and I promise to do once I get to D.C., you got to stay away from the lobbyists. I don't care how high character you are. I don't care how good of a man you think you are. If you spend 6 days a week having lobbyists wine and dine you and tell you how great you are and offering your wife special board positions where she makes a lot of money, because they're not allowed to bribe you directly, right? But maybe they bribe your family members. That is going to corrupt anybody. You've got to stay away from it, and I promise that I will. Man.
How did your uncle lives in Texas? Has he been affected by the chaos at the border?
You know, they live in a pretty rural part of Texas. They live in Decatur, Texas, and I don't know that they've been affected by it too much directly. I think, frankly, we've probably been affected by it in Ohio as much as they've been affected by it in his little corner of Texas. Because, of course, they're not going to the rural ranch parts, right? They're going to a lot of the big cities. They're collected along the southern border, and thanks to Joe Biden, they're getting first-class plane tickets to places like Akron, Toledo,
What's that
Cincinnati,
about?
and Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
I'd like to know what your thoughts might be on getting American companies back to this country.
Yes, sir.
Just decoupling from China.
Yeah.
And bringing them home where they belong.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. And look, to me, it's simple economics, okay? For 200 years in this country, we pursued a policy of economic sovereignty where if you were a company and you were doing business with America's enemies, you paid a penalty for it, okay? Trump resurrected this magical word that, you couldn't talk about for 30 years, tariffs, okay?
Yeah.
Think about what a tariff does. A tariff penalizes a company for working with a country that they shouldn't be working with.
Yeah.
And that's really what we got to do, okay?
Absolutely.
The other thing that we can do, it's not just tariffs, but we've got to change the regulatory burden around for American companies so that they actually have a reason to come back here in the first place, okay? So it's the carrot and the stick, right? You penalize them for doing business with our enemies, you make it easier for them to relocate in the United States. Let me just give you 2 examples of this. Okay, so we invest, in my business, what we do is we help really young companies grow. So a company we worked with, and one company I'm very proud of, called AppHarvest in southeastern Kentucky, they build really high-tech greenhouses to bring more of our food back to the United States, make it healthier. One of the things I first met the guy who created this company. When we first got involved, it had 2 employees. It was just this guy. They had no business model, and now they've got 400 employees. They're traded on the NASDAQ. Again, one of the things I'm most proud of is this company in my business career. And one of the things he said that was just crazy to me is there are pesticides where you will get thrown in prison if you use those pesticides growing tomatoes in the United States. Okay, and justifiably so, right? Some of these things can cause real harm to our people. But if you grow those tomatoes in Mexico, using Mexican slave labor, and re-import them back into the United States, now all of a sudden you can bring them in. So why are you going to grow tomatoes if you can use these cheap pesticides in Mexico, but not in the United States? You're at a huge disadvantage. I got another friend of mine who's he and her and her husband do a lot of house building, and so they deal with a lot of floor tile people, floor tile, right? And one thing she told me, I couldn't really believe it, is when you manufacture floor tile in this country, there are chemicals that you are not allowed to use in the manufacture of floor tile.
Yeah.
But where in China, where there's a lot of floor tile manufactured, you can use those chemicals and bring them into the United States and nobody asks any questions, okay? So we've got to actually make our American companies, we got to reward them for doing business the right way, which means if you're doing business in an unfair way with the communist Chinese, you gotta be exposed to the same standards, right?
Yeah,
You can't manufacture if you're using poison in your manufacturing processes in China, you can't bring that stuff back into this country. That's ridiculous.
Right.
It puts our workers and puts our companies at a big disadvantage. You fix those 2 things, you're gonna have a lot more American industry, a lot more American business come back here.
Amen.
Yes, sir, real quick.
Yeah, another one. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the people that have come across this border in the last year.
Yeah.
And it's probably half again as many as they say it is, always
That's right.
is. So what are we going to do with these people?
Well, we got to deport them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? I
Amen.
mean, this is pretty simple.
Yep.
Do you think you can get those people rounded up and get them out of here?
Oh yeah.
Well, there are 2 things you got to do. Okay, first of all, it's actually very hard to deport people in this country. Okay, because you come in, you're given a court hearing 45 days later, they disappear. Most of them don't come back to the court hearing in the first place. A buddy of mine who's a journalist, you probably know him, I won't say who it is, but he was telling me he visited this country in Europe called Hungary, pretty tiny little country, about 10 million people. And one of the reasons he's so interested in it is because they're very good at protecting their own border. And he said he saw these guys, they arrested an illegal alien in Hungary, and they were just like, all right, you're not allowed to be here. They walked them across the border. They said, see you later, come back the proper way. And it's like, why can't we do that in this country, right?
Right.
For all of the people that we seized at the southern border,
Absolutely.
we should be saying, nope, not allowed in, or if they get across, we're going to walk you back across. You're not allowed to come in the first place. Now, you're right. There's a lot of people already here. One thing that you can do, because, let's say there are 10 million people come across the next 4 years. We probably already have 15 million people here. You're talking about 25 million illegal aliens, okay? One of the things that you can do is recognize a lot of people will go back if they're not rewarded for being here in the first place.
Right.
Okay, you don't have to round everybody up. A lot of people will choose to go home if they're not able to take advantage of the laws of the country. That's why I mentioned the idea that I had about welfare. But the other thing is mandatory e-verify. Okay, you know what that is? That's when if you try to hire an illegal alien as a company, you have to verify and check that this person is a U.S. citizen.
Yep.
And if you've got to do that and that person can't get a job, one, you got to get that job to an American worker, which is where American jobs should go. But also that illegal alien is going to say, well, if I can't work here and send money back to wherever I came from, then they're going to go back, right? Those are the main things. You solve the problem in a big way. And then, of course, you know, yeah, you're going to have to go and deport some people, but I think you've got to make it so the country is not so generous to people who break our laws in the first place. That solves the biggest part of the problem. All right. Yeah, sorry, Will, I know. We got a lot of questions here, sir, and then I'll stop.
We gotta send Will outside.
We have all these people coming, they're breaking our laws, and how is the
Right.
president getting away with allowing that to happen? Isn't he part of the problem of breaking the law?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think, frankly, it's an impeachable offense. You've never had a country, you've never had a president in this country who has allowed a large-scale invasion like this. That's the only way to describe it. 10 million people in 4 years, and he's encouraging it, he's allowing it. You know, why is he allowed to do it? Because he's the president, and not enough people in Congress are willing to put this guy in check. That's simple.
If you get the job, will you go after the president for allowing this to happen?
Yes, absolutely. Sir.
Yeah, I ironically just came back from Mexico today, but I did it the right way.
Well, you shouldn't have, so they'll pay you $450,000 when you come across the roadway.
That would fund my retirement, but I know time on an airplane is a bad thing, so this is all the stuff I had for you, and you've covered most of it. But the
All
one
right.
thing that I had on here was, what's your thoughts, I mean, on the size of the federal government?
Yeah.
I believe you believe it's way too large.
Sure.
And how do we kind of get back to reemphasizing the 10th Amendment and restoring some of these rights to the states? You know, would you be in favor of eliminating the Department of Education, bringing that back down to the state level?
Yes.
And
Oh,
what other
please.
departments are useless, you know, that I don't know?
All of them, boy. All of them, boy. All of them.
So yeah, that's a big and long question. I'll try to be as brief as I can. Yes, I think the federal government is too big. Two, yes, I would support eliminating the Department of Education. We have to be careful about this, though, because the Democrats have used the Department of Education. You ask where critical race theory comes from. It comes from curricula that's been funded at that level.
Right.
So you can't just eliminate the Department of Education. You have to make sure that there's no more money going to these really
Right.
radical gender ideologies, really radical race
Yeah.
ideologies. So we've got to be careful about it.
That stuff
Because if
just
you just eliminate the Department of
chaps
Education,
me.
but don't put strings on that money or return that money to the states, the Democrats are going to find another way to push that ideology. That's a big, big problem we've got to be worried about. Yeah, I guess my whole philosophy here is, you know, government is best when it's close to home, right? Like you don't want the federal government fixing potholes and roads in, you know, Lancaster, Middletown, wherever, right? You want that to happen with your local government. There are a lot of things that you want to happen at the local and state government, and when the federal government takes too many of these powers on for itself, it makes it harder to actually govern yourself close to home. And so, yeah, there's a lot the federal government is doing, and importantly, you know, I believe in limited government. I also believe in effective government, right? The VA. Okay, the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Right.
We have a Department of Veterans Affairs. We've got a national military. We've got to take care of the widows, the orphans, the people who bore the brunt of the battle, as Abraham Lincoln said when he created that department, you know, over 150 years ago. Part of the problem in the Department of Veterans Affairs is you can't fire the bad apples, right? Most of the people who work for the VA are good
Why
people.
not?
Some of them are total. I mean, this is, you know, the only way I got health care for 5 years of my life was through the VA. And you get with the wrong person on the phone, you're going to spend 3 hours in phone tag hell, unable to get a doctor's appointment, and that person cannot be fired. Right?
Why
It is
can't they
very
be
hard.
fired?
Because we've created a set of laws that protect civil servants in this country, and that we've got to fix that. We've got to deal away with that. So we need to make the government smaller, but we've also got to make the parts of it that need to exist more effective. We used to have a very good VA in this country.
Yeah.
We used to have a military that actually focused on winning wars. Imagine that. Okay. We got to get back to basic effective governance too. And part of that is actually getting government back to some of the tasks that it needs to really focus on and getting it out of some of the other stuff. Yes, sir. Okay. I'm sorry, Will is busting my chops here. I know we got to get on the road
Can we
soon.
send
You
Will
had your hand
out?
up like 3 times, so I'm going to answer your question. Then we'll be done.
All right.
Who's Will?
Most likely your opponent will be Tim Ryan on the Democrat side. Do you think you can beat him?
Absolutely, I think I can beat Tim Ryan. Look, the argument to Tim Ryan is this guy is a complete fraud and a complete failure, and only in politics can you spend 20 years failing and failing and failing and expect a promotion. And that's what this guy is going after. I mean, think about this. He has been a congressman for Youngstown for 20 years. Look at every major indicator of Youngstown's health. How many people are dying of drug overdoses? What's the life expectancy? What are the employment prospects? What are the average wages? Everything in Youngstown has frankly gotten worse. This guy's been in office. Now he wants to take that approach to the whole U.S. Senate. I think it's easy to beat Tim Ryan so long as you've got the courage and a little bit of fight in you. The other thing I'd say about this is Tim Ryan would have been a harder person to beat 5 years ago because Tim Ryan was kind of moderate on abortion. He was moderate on guns. He was actually true to the people that he came from a little bit. He didn't go full left wing on a lot of these issues. I went to the only event I've done with Tim Ryan, the only political event where we've both been, was a carpenters and millwrights event outside of Youngstown. It was a fish fry, about 500 people there. And it was so funny to me because I'm walking the halls, or I'm walking the tables, and Tim Ryan's walking the tables. And you get people stand up and say, "Hey, I saw you on Fox News," or "Hey, I saw you did this podcast with this person." And nobody even noticed who Tim Ryan was, and this is in his home district. And the thing that was craziest about it is this group of union carpenters and millwrights. You know what the door prize was for their fish fry? An AR-15.
Nice. Very nice.
Working people are coming over to our side in
Yeah.
this party and in this movement, and you just got to slam Tim Ryan with that issue, with the fact that he's abandoning people, not just for their economic prospects, for their values. You can't be a good senator, okay? And this is, by the way, this is a problem we have in our own party, right? Where they just want to talk about people's jobs, and that's important, right? Of course, people's jobs, maybe the most important thing you do as a political leader is make sure there's opportunity, there's growing businesses in your community. But you can't just focus on jobs and hate people's values, okay? The Second Amendment is an important value. It's an important right for us to protect, right? The rights of the unborn is an important thing for us to protect. You can't just talk about jobs and think people's values are terrible and expect to win a Senate race. You got to actually, if not agree with them, and I do, have some respect for people. And the Democrats have no respect for normal people in this country anymore, so it's going to be easy to beat Tim Ryan, I think. Thank you all so much for having me.